You want to make some kick-ass brackets such as these to put the kick-ass lights you just purchased on your vehicle. First you need this. I'm Sean.
I'm Jill.
This is Crafting with 151 Garage. What those are the products I use to fabricate this bracket. Now, this metal is expensive now. The poster board is like $1, and the cardboard is free if you have a wife that orders something from Amazon every day. If not, you have car parts and all sorts of stuff come in boxes. Just utilize one of those. Every day. Every day.
I do not.
Every day.
No.
So I'll go through the steps of utilizing these products right here to make your bracket first out of this. That way you don't use a bunch of metal and waste a lot of time that way. These are inexpensive. Now, I am not a YouTube certified fabricator. I'm sure people will make comments that I'm doing something wrong, but I have built this, and I'll put the picture up here of the 1952 Ford rat rod I'm building that I actually fabricated every single bracket on that vehicle, and I've done a pretty good job so far.
And he used a method similar to this, if not
Same
this.
thing. Same thing. So it's a quick way to see if something fits. It's a quick way to see if something doesn't fit. If you make that, you have to start from scratch, where that is a lot easier. Also, this cuts really easy with a knife. A big chunk of metal doesn't. So you won't have to grind anything. You'll cut this, see if it works, and then go from there. So again, we'll go to the table, we'll show you what we used, all the products we used to make the bracket that goes under the front of our bumper. So, okay, see you at the table. First, to make this bracket, you have to have a few things. Cardboard, poster board, crayons. Unless you're a normal person, these are for Marines. We'll move those aside. Sharpie, pen, and a sharp knife. Now what I ended up doing is first making this bracket out of cardboard. It's cheap, easy to cut. You don't have to worry about the fine lines. You can actually bend it however you need. Once you get this set up, you can actually refine the bracket you made from here into this. This right here cuts very easily. You can actually refine all the corners and all the curves, such as right here where I cut this. I actually refined it on this to make it work a little bit better. And then obviously cut it out with a knife, use the Sharpies. Once you get this cut out, you can test fit it again, make sure it doesn't hit the wheels when you turn the wheel, and then make it out of a big plate of metal, which I do not have up here. It's in the shed. I didn't want to bring a gigantic piece of metal up here, but that's the steps you're going to go through. Okay, first things first. If you haven't removed the crash bar and you do want to do this, go ahead and remove it now. I already removed mine. Basically just the 2 bolts right there. You may have to move this out of the way or remove this to be able to slide it out. It does get pretty tight right here. Retain the 2 bolts. Now I put these back into place just to keep them basically in safekeeping. I didn't lose them anywhere. Go ahead and remove these 2 bolts. And then get your cardboard. Now you want the cardboard about the same size as the crash bar, so you can either do 2 things. You can either just transfer the size on the crash bar, or just take this and run this up either side. Let's see, go like this, about where we'd want it. Give us enough room, and then go up underneath and do this. So it leaves the 2 marks. We won't worry about this stuff. We'll just make sure that this is parallel on both sides. Trim it out till it's more of a square, and like that. So it'll go all the way up and then over. So we'll go ahead and cut this out real quick, and we'll be right back. Okay, now that we have this set up, This is cut at the angle to fit right here. We do have it trimmed out. We may have to trim this out a little bit this way because depending on how it fits, we'll put the light on in a second on the next step. But right now it looks like it's right about where I want it. I can put the holes in, line it up nicely, and then basically just trim off all the excess that I don't need. That way the sharp edge isn't here near the tire. So let's go ahead and cut this out onto the poster board and I'll be right back. Now that I have this cut out, it's time to mark the holes. So you take a pen, you can go all the way through here and mark both sides. So you make sure to get the threaded inserts. There are 2 extra holes and it should come out with a couple holes. Now I have one right here and one right here. This right here is kind of a mess up from before, but you have these 2 holes. We'll go ahead and cut those out. I'll be right back. Okay, so the holes are cut. We're gonna go ahead and install this utilizing the bolts. We don't need to make sure they're tight. I just wanna make sure the placement's there. Run it down. Right there. And then this one right there. So the holes are lined up. And now, once you have those set, you can start messing around with where you want the light. Now we know we want the light a little bit further up, closer to this area. That's why I made the tab sticking out. And we'll grab the light here in a second and kind of show you what we're looking at. Okay, so now that we have the light, we have the bracket. We want to make sure that it's right around the area that we want in this window. Now granted, this isn't bent right now, but what I am going to do is trim a line right here, then bend this up a little bit so that way this is level. I just want to make sure that I have this light in the window that I want. I don't want it further out. I don't want it all the way in. I want it right about here. Take the Sharpie, make a dot where the hole is. See the hole right there? And we will go ahead and take this out, trim it one last time, then see how it fits. Okay, so we have the bracket, temp bracket, we have the holes placed, we have that hole placed. We'll go ahead and put this all together again. Then take the light, put the bolt in, run it through this hole to make sure it's where you want. Now again, this is a flimsy piece of cardstock. We just want to make sure the placement away from this is where we want it, and we will bend this up eventually when we get the metal to where it sits more like this. We just want to make sure that this is all set up before we go to trim it out of metal. So we'll go ahead and cut it out of metal and be right back. Okay, so now that we have this out in the shed, this is the piece of metal I have. It's a scrap piece of metal from when I was working on my rat rod. Now, what you can do is, if it's your initial bracket, you have this template. Just lay it down, trace it out, and then cut the bracket out with basically a grinder, and that's the initial bracket. Now, I already have a bracket made, so I'm gonna use this. The reason this is because if you use the bracket made initially, it's actually gonna be a better template and it's gonna be perfect to whatever you trimmed out for the other side. It's gonna basically mirror the other side. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now you do wanna wear eye protection as well as gloves. These are just thick leather gloves I have, because sparks do happen and they are gonna come pretty quick. So I did already drill the holes for it as per the last bracket I made. But what you'll have to do with this one is basically just figure out where the holes you need and then install them. Okay, so now for the fitment. Now, as you can see, I put a relief cut right here. Now, what this is to level this portion out. Since this does kind of come down at an angle, I will go through this and actually bend it up. What else you could do is on this side, you could just put in a couple washers under here and level it out that way. If you don't have a welder or anything like that, just put a couple washers. Might be in a lot easier way than doing what I'm doing right now. This right here is fairly level because the top of this right here is level. This right here is level. So I wanted to make sure I measured the top of this. I will go ahead and bolt this up. What we'll do next, and we'll do this off the video or after the video, is I'll just tack weld these a couple places, then I'll weld it across, and then I will basically just powder coat it black or paint it black, whichever you prefer, and then hook up the light. Now that we've gone through the steps of the cardboard template, the poster board template, that way you can make this a little more refined and see how it fits with edges and the bolts in there. And then we trimmed it out of the metal. So what this is just a thick piece of metal. I had scrap metal sitting around. You can find a hardware store or something that has metal plate. Just cut it out. This isn't perfect by any means. I wasn't really worried about it because it is going under the underbody. It's not going to be visibly seen like brackets on the outside of the car. This is basically just a bracket that's going right there. So let's throw the bolts in real quick. So without putting a light on there, I will take this off, kind of show you a closer view. Now, as you can tell, it's got the bolts through. Now, I'll put the light on here afterwards, but that's not too bad. Lights all installed. Those are the lights from NovSight. They are the 4.5 inch. Pretty nice. Now, I will put some wire loom over the wires themselves. That way, I give it a little bit extra protection, especially where it's located at. It's not too bad though. It'll get dirty enough to blend in with the rest of the brackets, since it's fairly dirty under here anyways. There you go. Not too bad. Exactly what I wanted, exactly where I wanted to put it. These are pretty simple to make. It literally took me about a half an hour to make the other one. This one a little bit longer because, again, I was videotaping and doing all that stuff. So it actually took me longer to make this one via the videotape than it did the other one, which I made before this one to see how I would do it. It actually only took me like 30 minutes or so. So there you go. Making the brackets for the vehicle isn't bad. I made a bunch of brackets for my rat rod, as I stated before. It's actually nice to figure out where you want to put something and what you need to actually do to put it there. Like the lights here, there was no bracket, there was no brackets available. I just figured I'd go ahead and make my own. I know how to do it. I didn't show the welding part. You don't have to weld it. What you can do is you can actually find maybe like aluminum and bend it, hammer it out a little bit, and then put it in there. Or like I suggested before, if you need to go up a little bit, just put washers under one of the bolts, tighten it down until it's level, and there you go. You know, I hope you guys like this. I do have a lot of other brackets I gotta build for this because there is areas where I want to put things that don't have a bracket specifically for that, like my speakers in the back. I am building a whole new system for the speakers in the back. Instead of the ones that come stock, I am putting 8-inch pods in the back with 8-inch speakers, and then a bar going across, and then those are mounted to the bars. Again, that'll be a later video. I do have to make the entire bracket, bar, and everything. And if you do like the 4.5-inch halo lights from NovSight that I installed, please hit them up at NovSight. I'll put the link down below, as well as use the discount code 151 for 20% off. Okay, see you next video.